All right, y'all. It's that time again for another powerful and amazing episode. We're here on ColumbusBlack.com. We are live streaming on Facebook for our Throwback Thursday Support Black Business Series, right? So I'm excited to have you all here with me tonight. We obviously have some amazing panelists and guests that's going to be here with us today. So I'm going to tell you what's really special about this. So I think most of you know that we've been around now for 15 years, and most recently we announced some new programming. And as a part of that new programming, we introduced Matchmaker Mondays. We have Talent Tuesday in the midnight hour, our spiritual component, Wellness Wednesdays, and tonight we have Throwback Thursdays. And we're taking it back to the old school, right? Now, the cool part about that is we know back in the day, we really did a great job of supporting Black-owned businesses and our arts. And what we said was, hey, Throwback Thursdays, that's our goal, is to keep doing that to support our business owners and most definitely our artists, because our artists bring us balance. No matter what form of art it is that really intrigues us, it balances our life. Tonight, we get a double dose of that. So not only do we get to focus on our artists, but we also get to do the business side as well. So with that being said, we've had the opportunity to engage GCAC and Columbus Makes Art. And now we're introducing, as a part of our Throwback Thursdays, what we call Artist Voice. This is where you get to hear from our local artists as we showcase them, and you understand a little bit more about how they use their voice through art that obviously impacts us. So we have two amazing artists that will be on with us today, and we'll speak to them in a moment. But with that being said, I want to thank Columbus Makes Art. And then on the other side, from a business perspective, we're going to talk business tonight too. And we had that being sponsored by the Ohio Small Business Development Centers at our community, Columbus State Community College. And that's really critically important because business is so important to us, and they provide free advisory services to help our businesses to grow. So with that being said, we're going to open up this segment, right? And we're going to learn a little bit more about these artists. And then obviously we want to talk about how we support them as well. So to kick us off for our artist segment, right? And there's going to be a segue into more of that. We actually have Lisa on the line with us, Lisa. So I want to welcome you to our special segment tonight for Support Black Business Series, but specifically for you for Artist Voice. So we want everybody to learn a little bit more about you as a visual artist and the things that you do. All right.
Well, hello, and thank you so much for having me. This is really exciting to talk to you and talk to some new people and see Mark, who I haven't seen in a while. I have worked for the last 30-ish years in Columbus, doing a lot of support for micro business, small business, artists, geniuses, lots of really amazing concepts. I've covered a lot of categories as a designer, but now I'm living more as an artist, a visual artist, and I'm using some design knowledge to convert ideas into something that people can take away and find some bit of action towards or a new perspective on.
So hold on. Let's go back.
I know, I just said a lot.
You said a lot in like 25 seconds. And we know, and this is the cool part about this show, there's so much more to what you just said.
There is.
So do me a favor, let's go back, right? And help us understand, right? Like, when did you start doing what you started doing, even as a child or young adult?
Oh, wow.
When did this click into you, like, and then you realize, like, this is my gift? And then how did that evolve to what you do today?
I could fast forward. I mean, I've always identified as an artist, but I went to college for graphic design right when I discovered graphic design, and that was early 90s. Through all of that experience as trying to run a business and working with other business people, I've come to looking at the more emotional side of things and trying to convey new ways to look at those emotions. So as an artist, I'm using my voice to make work that hopefully moves and educates.
Okay. So what is that?
It's also beautiful. It's also something that, catches your eye in some way and takes you back to a certain time or emotion.
So walk us through, yep, you're doing that, but also from a business standpoint, you said you have been helping others as well, right?
Yes. So that is where there is a lot of depth.
Okay.
The experience of working one-on-one with someone who needs to convey an idea or sell a product, everybody's very different, but there are definite ways to look at how you present yourself from a
Mhm.
design standpoint. So I'm finding ways as an artist, and I'm trying to keep my artist focus in this call because everything's
Yeah.
connected to me. So I end up rambling. I know,
Um, um, it's all right. It's
sitting
all
back.
right.
Okay.
The ramble is tied to creativity, and as an artist, that's what you are, right?
Yes, my
So
brain is
it's
moving.
yeah, the creative juices are flowing. That's
Yeah.
all right. That's all right. So let me ask you, so how would you describe, so for those that are like, okay, I don't really, they may not be familiar with you, right? And we're going to tell them where they can find more of your work as well. We're going to get into that. Is how do you describe, right? Like your artistry, right? So for the general population.
I would like to say that the core of what I do
Mhm.
enhances life.
Okay.
That's the absolute core of it.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
whether that's designing a logo or painting a piece of art, all of it is to take us somewhere.
Okay. Right. So that's where the depth comes in, right? Because it's substance to that, right?
Yes.
So and then for you, like who are your from a business standpoint, client wise, right? Like who do you do business with? What type of clients? So because we have a wide range of people that's going to watch this video, right? And that's the
Yeah.
cool part, y'all. This is a digital footprint designed to spread. So I want everybody who's watching this to hit that share button, right? So, but Lisa, tell us that, like so from a business standpoint.
So I just started working with Maroon Art Group, which has
Right?
been doing some amazing work in the city. And I'm very proud to say that that is a great place to go through it. Marshall Shorts has initiated some amazing designs.
Yeah.
I'm following that to build on. So small businesses that come our way that need design help,
Yeah.
that's my goal, is to help them using my past knowledge, which
Okay.
I feel like covers a lot of territories.
Yeah.
And that's the exciting part because you start to see connections to things.
Okay.
But at the core, hairdressers, chefs, toy
Mm.
makers, musicians, other artists. Like I've helped so many different people put some ideas together to start putting them out. And I work with them in phases. So, you start here and this is what you can afford, but we're looking at the big picture and then we want to phase out how we get to that big picture because, nothing is immediate.
Yeah.
So
So
building the story and then coming up with visuals around that story that convey what you want to do is what I'm in the business of doing through Maroon Art Group primarily because I have a full-time job,
okay.
but yeah, I would love to have the work come through there and we can all help you.
That's awesome. So that's a major resource for those that are out there. And that's one of the things I want to make sure we touch on, right? So there's probably the likelihood is somebody is watching this, right? And they have some type of gift when it comes to art. So from your experiences and your perspective, what would you share with those that are starting to find out about themselves in this particular realm as guidance, or those who have naturally had that ability but haven't really used it in that way, but have thought like I want to do more. So based off your experiences, any words of wisdom that you would share with them?
Don't hesitate. Do what you can to do more. I think if you're working in a certain category, you might break through a new level of doing that work if you switch gears and look at another way of doing things. So, a lot of times I might be designing something, but painting something unlocks, a client's piece while I'm looking at symbols and learning about like different perspectives and trying to build ideas around that to convey visuals. Um, Dang, see, I go all the way out there.
It's all good. It's all good. It's all good. So
Yeah,
and so listen, let me ask you this question, right? So obviously you got the full-time thing going on, but you do a lot with the arts pieces. Last year as a part of this whole series that we created, we actually created this in March of last year. So one of the things that we ask everybody is COVID-19, right? How did that, from your perspective, how did that impact you as an artist? in any particular way? Did it open up more doors? Did it make things more difficult? Did it create more creative juices for you with everything that happened? We had a lot of civil unrest last year that continues. So a little bit of that, so we can get your perspectives.
I would tie that to what do I do that other artists might be having or other potential business owners might be having. Your last question, I'm still thinking, how can someone get active? And for me, what I did is I jumped right in. Through my job, we were invited to do a mural, and that kicked off a lot of additional work. So that's new work for me, and that's been exciting to connect with people at that level.
Yeah.
But working publicly was a little nerve-wracking at first, and I
Oh
just
yeah.
went in and I did it, and I'm doing it, and I
Okay. Okay.
enjoy it.
So that makes me think of something. So it sounds like you stepped out of a comfort zone.
I did, big time.
Yeah.
Working in front of people and working on larger projects and working in the moment because I have like choreography around all the pieces that I'm doing. So to get out and do a mural, I'm thinking about all the different things I need to do to build the layers and do it quickly and efficiently.
Mm.
Um, and it's been exciting. It culminates with the partnership that Maroon Art Group has with Greater Columbus Arts Council. The Deliver Black Dreams program has been my heart work. You know, like I did that mural on Fifth Avenue, and when the project was originally proposed, we didn't have an idea what we were going to do. But in talking together, you know, we knew we wanted to do something public art wise that brought attention and educated a little bit. So Marshall lended Deliver Black Dreams, and it's just taken off from there. I did that mural based on that really strong phrase that is activating to people.
Wow.
So
Wow.
yeah, so you know, going out on the limb, using what I do know and applying that and just being open to learning more about how it all works really well is how I move forward in the world. And that's how I ended up doing the murals and ended up working with Maroon Art Groups. If I didn't push myself to get out there, I would not be doing anything that I'm doing right now. So connecting and building on a network is really important.
That is so awesome. That is so awesome. So congratulations on all of that progress in what you've been doing, stepping out of your comfort zone, which has created more opportunity, which is super exciting.
It is
Super exciting.
exciting. It is exciting. Thank
All
you.
right. Well, good stuff. And as y'all can see, Columbus makes art, right? Especially
For
Lisa.
real.
So good stuff. So listen, so tell us this, right? So how can our viewers one see more of your work, right? And also then we want to talk about how they can support you in your endeavors and growth as well.
You can follow me on Instagram and go to my website. They're both spelled my full name. So I'm sorry, Lisa
Mhm.
McLymont.
Okay. All right. So that's your IG page and that's your website.
Yep. So lisamclymont.com. It'll be
Okay.
a front door to learning more about me and seeing links on Facebook and Instagram. Um,
Awesome.
well, there'll be some more murals coming up. So I think Phoebus will be our next one, Deliver
Okay.
Black Dreams mural.
Yeah.
And I think Marshall's designing it and we're going to be painting. So that'll be exciting. And we'll put that out on the social media and you can come down and take pictures or pick up a paintbrush.
That's right. That's an offer to all to participate and do some work, of
Yeah.
course, right?
Yeah.
So so here's what I want to do is I want to invite everybody to go to your website and or go to your IG page and see some of the I think amazing and beautiful artwork that you have, right?
Thank
So
you.
clearly, very talented and gifted. So that's good stuff. So listen, when we have these shows, right? And I know it's helping you step out of your comfort zone a little bit. When we do this, one of the things that we do is we want people to know how to find you, but then also how to support you, right? So if you said, hey, there was one thing that you all can do, just one thing that you want the audience to do, is there one thing we can do as a community to continue to support you?
Wow. Well, besides cheering me on, if you want to invest in me, I sell prints through my website and through Facebook. So
Okay.
facebook.com/ Lisa MC Art, Lisa Mick Art. And you can buy me a print of some past work.
There we go. There you go. All right, y'all.
And
So
I
listen,
thank you for your support.
no doubt about it. Listen, that's our challenge, right? I always say, our entrepreneurs, our artists, guess what? When they step out to do what they do, that's their part. Us supporting them, that's our part. So now you all know, but I think when you see the art, you'll understand why you need to go ahead and buy that print. All right. So
Thank you.
very
Yes.
very good, very good. Awesome stuff. Well, listen, the last part that I have for you is in preparation for these shows, and this will be a heads up to Mark as we get ready to go into the feature segment, is one of the other things we know when people find out they're going to be online with us, you know, a lot of things go through your mind. What am I going to say? Oh, I don't want to mess this up, and I need to make sure I share this.
Yeah.
Is there anything that you thought of that you said, you know what, while I have the opportunity, I want to say this, and we haven't talked about it yet? Is there anything we may have missed that you're going to be like later on, I can't believe I didn't say that?
I would love to add a request for support, and I'm not sure what that support looks like for them, but I would like to call out Black Out and Proud as another group that I'm connected to.
Okay.
They've been doing some amazing work in building community and protecting education and protecting ourselves as LGBTQ people. So
Yeah.
blackoutandproud.com and or check them out around the city. I know they have a page on Facebook too.
There's your
But
shout.
that's my last one.
There you go. All right. Very good. So y'all heard it, Black Out and Proud. So check them out. You said .com?
.com.
.com. All right. Very good. So we appreciate that. We appreciate that. So this is what we're going to do now. So Lisa, we're going to switch over to Mark into our feature segment. We appreciate having you on. You are welcome to stick around if you choose to.
I would love to.
All right, there we go. Here we go. so look, I would have said the same thing.
No, that's in a drop of that music.
So check this out. So here we go, y'all. So listen, we're excited, obviously, and once again I want to thank Lisa for joining us. I want to thank you for all the great work that you're doing around the city, the artwork, and beyond the city, obviously as well. And great to have you. And then I want to thank GCAC and Columbus Makes Art as well for sponsoring this and helping us to identify these amazing, talented artists from our capital city. We have to support ours right here. So let's make sure we do that, okay? And speaking of that, we're going to talk about this other panelist and guest that we have on today, a very special friend of mine that I'm excited that we finally have him on the show as well. And so I'm happy to introduce Mark Lomax. Ladies and gentlemen, many of you know him, know of him, have either heard his music or seen him on the cover of some magazine somewhere, and he has earned all of that, right? So Mark, it's a pleasure to have you on. So what I want you to do, if you don't mind, is introduce yourself and start to tell your story. We want a little backdrop about Mark, where you're from, all that good stuff, and then we're going to lead into how we got to this point.
Cool. Thank you, Kevin. Thanks for having me, homie. You know, it's always good to see you. Love you and the family. Lisa, always good to see you. Love the work you all are doing with Deliver Black Dreams, and your work is amazing anyway. So that's dope. And, you know, Marshall and Maroon are all family. Marshall actually did the design. That's my background, which is the cover for my 400 African Epic project, which we'll talk about here in a second. But you asked me kind of little origin stories. I've moved to Columbus. I still call myself a transplant, even though my wife is like, that doesn't count. But I moved here when I was 2 from Blacksburg, Virginia. I'm not from here, you know what I mean? But
I'm from New York, so I get it. I totally get it.
Hold on, did we miss that one, Lisa?
Yeah, she's from New York, man. I thought you already had that connection.
I didn't know that.
From New York too.
I was born in Manhattan. I've been here since I was 10.
All right, we'll still give you that shout. We'll give you that shout. Candace home in the house. That's good stuff. All right, yeah. We're repping.
But all cool. Right. So I grew up in Linden. I went to Columbus City Schools, graduated from Brookhaven, and have the unfortunate experience, dubious distinction of having gone to Ohio State, where I teach. But I'm a huge Michigan fan because OSU was not the greatest place for artists like me. I became professional at 12 and started touring at 14 and released my first record when I was like 19-ish. But I've been writing music since I was a little kid. And to date, I've released about 45 albums under my own, 43 of them under my own company. And then 2 of those was with Inner Rhyme Records out of Philly.
Okay, congratulations on all of that, by the way.
Thank you.
Now, did you say 45?
Yeah, 45 albums, 12 of which was the 400 African Epic project, where I became the first person in the world to release 12 albums on one day to commemorate the 400 years since the first 20 and odd Negroes from Angola were brought to North America as enslaved Africans. And that work tells the story from pre-colonial African history, because if we start our history with slavery, we'll never overcome the trauma of slavery, through the Ma'afa, 1619 to the present, and projecting 400 years into the future, when we hopefully become one healthy, happy, and whole human family. And in order to do that, we have to find our own healing and justice and everything else as Africans in America. So that's really what my work is about. I got 11 jobs, and we can talk about that, but my number one job is as an artist. Yeah.
So hold up, I got a question for you, right? Because you're going through all this real fast. Did you say 6011?
Yeah, 6011.
You upgrade from 5011
to 5011. I got 6011, man. 6011. You see these bags under my eyes, Kevin? You know, man.
Bruh, you done took it to the next level.
For sure.
All right, that's good stuff, man. Good stuff. So look, so let's swing back for a minute though. So you've been, like you said, since 12, is that right? Age 12, right? 45 albums today, and still doing more, right? Really busy with that. I have to ask this question, going back, when did you know though? Like how did you even get into music? Especially the form of music that you're in, like it's a whole nother level in the depth of what you're doing, the type of work you're doing. I need us to understand a little bit more, because it's not like I'm a drummer and I just play regular music. It's a different, you're on a different level. How did you get there? I gotta understand this.
I think more, I don't know, the better question may be, when didn't I know? So the story is, okay, the reason why we moved here when I was 2 is because when I was born, my parents were running my mother was over the gospel choir at Virginia Tech in Blacksburg, Virginia, called the Gospel Experience, and she's a gospel musician. My father's a pastor. He's one of the world's foremost theologians in Afrocentric homiletics. That means interpreting the Bible from an African-centered perspective. And so he was the chaplain. And we came to Columbus because he was doing graduate studies in theology at Trinity Lutheran Seminary, where he did his master's in biblical dialects. So he reads Aramaic, ancient Greek, and Hebrew. And so that's why we came to Columbus. But when I was born, they said, because they didn't stop working. That's just how we do. And so they would take me to rehearsals. And when I was 5 or 6 months old, my mom was working with the sopranos in the choir, and they were having problems hitting this note, and I hit it from the pew in the stand in my little car seat as a baby. So I've always sang. I don't sing in public, but growing up as a preacher's kid, you got to sing, you got to play the piano, you got to play bass, you got to play drums, you got to do everything, right? Because they don't want to pay nobody.
Right.
And so I just grew up in that tradition, and my mother said as she would breastfeed me and I'd be on the bottle, I would tap beats on the back of her ear or on her chest. So it's always been there. And then as soon as I could walk, they say one of the first things I did was run to the drums. And I walked at 10 months old. So there you go, right?
There you go.
We come to Columbus and they have me assessed by Roger Parrish, who's a well-known music teacher in the city. And I'm 2 years old, and a 10-year-old had a lesson right before me. And as soon as he gets done off the drums, I run to the drums and I play what his lesson was.
Wow.
And so I just, at 2. So I don't know a time where I didn't, have drumsticks somewhere close.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
And then I've always been precocious, and my parents both, my dad's been to Africa over 50 times.
Okay.
and my mom's been once, at least once, and they always would bring back drums and recordings.
Okay.
So like from the time I was 7 or 8 until I left my mother's house, I was sleeping to African drums and African choral music and traditional African dance music and all that kind of stuff. So that music has always been a part of me, and I would try to play it in church and I would get in trouble.
Oh.
And because you know, you're not supposed to play those rhythms. You're supposed to, and I was like ding 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 ding, you know, trying to do all this African stuff. And and there was a drummer in town, is a drummer in town, he's still with us, named James Elliott. We call him Smooth. I call him Schmooth because that's my dude.
Yeah.
And he recognized a little bit of talent or whatever, and he asked my mom, he actually convinced my mom to take me to play at a jazz club, at a like an open mic for musicians, the jam session.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I met historically great figures like Gene Walker and Hank Marr and people like that. And I mean, Gene Walker played with the Beatles, you know, serious cats. And Billy Brown was the drummer.
Yeah.
And they helped me figure out what we call jazz, or what I call black art music, you know. And I started then trying to take that back to the church, because the deal was I couldn't go play out, quote unquote, in the world unless I was playing in church, right? And when my mom saw I had aptitude, I started touring with gospel groups when I was 14. And I started playing in jazz clubs around the same time. And my mother, being a good Christian woman she is, she would read a Bible while I'm playing in these 35 and older clubs. And then I'd have to come out every set break, and she would like pray for me and bless me and make sure I was cool. And then I'd go back in and play, right?
Are you serious? You are serious.
I'm dead serious. I'm dead serious.
Wow.
So that's kind of how I figured it all out. And I realized that, you know, the music that was in me was bigger than the environment that I was in. And so I had to get out of the church. I've actually been fired from 5 churches.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. Preacher's kid getting fired from church for playing, you know, music.
Causing all that good trouble, man.
Causing good trouble, man.
Come on, man.
What I learned though, man, seriously, is that as a drummer, I had a responsibility in the tradition of the griot. And that the drums were purposed to tell a story and connect us to the culture. And so playing those rhythms, dude, I told you I'm here to catch yours.
Come on, you know? Man, he's dropping those gems. Y'all better catch up.
and learning those African rhythms and playing them in African American context, right, allow us to, you know, reprogram ourselves to rhythms that are germane to who we are genetically. And once I figured that out in high school, because I was trying to read all these books and be deep to connect with my dad, because he's who he is, you know, it just all was jumbled. And in my 20s, everything started to come together. And by 30, I realized and accepted who I was in that role and stopped trying to be, you know, the kid that could play with Wynton Marsalis and play with all these folks, because I was doing that. And I just never felt like I fit in. And I got fired from my last group at 26. And by 30, I had figured out how to do my own thing. And by 40, I had released 40 albums. So.
Listen, y'all, I'm over here cracking up. So listen, he's dropping.
You know the story, man.
So many heavy gems, though, because there's so much more depth that I want our viewers and our listeners to pay attention to, right? Because, Mark, as you know, so many of us try to be what we're not, right? And that's why people don't excel and they struggle, and it creates so many more issues with us as individuals and even mentally, because we're trying to be something else.
That's right.
And until you get to who you're supposed to be, you're never happy or satisfied or fulfilled. And so your story, while you're telling it as what you went through, there's so much depth to it that I need people to understand. And then look at all the success that has come from when you realize what you were supposed to be doing. Now 40 albums since then, since that point. That's amazing.
And you know, you have to know, like, even at 18, I realized that being a musician in the way that I felt I needed to be was about establishing, you know, a business that could support my work, right? And a lot of times when we think about businesses, we think about systems. Right. Once you kind of establish a system for how to bring a product to market, it's the same, you replicate it and you just scale, right?
Yeah.
But what happens when your business is antithetical to the mainstream?
Mm,
You have to create completely new ways of doing business and new means of production.
that's
You
right.
know, so
AKA disruption.
disruption,
AKA disruption. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So we came up at a time where we were like the tail end of the generations that learned the music from the mouths of the elders in the clubs, in the neighborhoods, right? And so we have that authentic means of expression. And we got in trouble in college because we were playing from the street. We were bringing our culture into these halls of higher ed. And they were like, nah, man, you got to play by a book. And so I dropped out twice.
Yeah.
You know, my saxophone player dropped out, my bass player dropped out, only the piano player and I eventually finished because we couldn't reconcile how they were trying to force us into a box.
Yeah.
When we understood that our culture was bigger than that box. So literally over the last 20 years, we've been working to build, you know, the scaffolding of the system that allows us to represent our culture authentically, while also being successful in the market.
Outstanding, outstanding, outstanding. So I have to ask you this question because it seems like a natural segue. After all of that, and then seeing everything that's happened last year, right? With the awakening, right, as a nation, right? And I don't say it wasn't the first for many, but for as a nation and even as a world to recognize, right, and eyes open. So how has that impacted you? Has it, especially with the fact that you were so cutting edge, so innovative, and providing what has been authentically correct from the beginning, right? So walk us through that whole piece as it relates to you or your thought process or your experiences coming through last year as well.
Yeah, so Max Roach said that the jazz musician is the chronicler of his time. And what I understood early, because of who my father is in particular, is that, and from being exposed to African music and the tradition of the griot, right? The griot is the keeper of the culture.
Okay.
And they use art and music, dance, to tell stories that keep people centered in who they are as a culture, right? Okay. And so my very first album, which I started recording, I recorded it 3 times. So the first recording sessions when I was 18, we didn't release it until later. I was 19 or 20. Was called Tales of the Black Experience. And I was told by a lot of people whose names people who listen to jazz would know, like, nobody's going to buy that. People, you know, don't want to hear that. And I put it out anyway, you know, because if nobody's going to invest in you, you got to invest in yourself. And so since the age of 18, every album that I've released has been a part of our narrative. Like the music has been inspired by our stories. And even when I was on Interrhyme, we put out State of Black America in 2010, and we put out Isis and Osiris, which are ancient Egyptian god and goddesses, in 2014. And in between there, we have Trayvon Martin and those series of state-sanctioned murders that were just, it seemed like every other day we were getting hit in the head with more video, right?
Right.
And so in 2014, Eddie Bayard, the saxophone player, and I decided we had to do something and make an artistic statement. Now, mind you, all of our recorded output was telling our story, but it wasn't necessarily directly associated with the social justice movements that were coming up as a result of these state-sanctioned murders. And so in 2014, I got dropped from Interrhyme Records because against their wishes, and actually they wrote me a whole letter like, don't do it. We released Black Lives Matter. And,
wow.
Yeah. And we released it for free because I didn't want anybody to think that I was trying to make money on the movement.
Right.
And in this record, you hear from, it starts with Jeremiah Wright's whole fiery sermon around goddamn America for treating its people of color with inhumane, you know, kind of ways, in inhumane ways, right? And then we go from Jeremiah Wright to Frances Cress Welsing, the author, Dr. Frances Cress Welsing, the author of ISIS Papers, right? She's talking about racism and white supremacy as a system. If we don't understand that system, then we cannot overcome and win this battle, right? And then it goes from her to Malcolm X's Ballad of the Bullet speech. He says, it's time to stop singing and start swinging. You know, our problems, we've been singing too much and not been fighting, right?
Right.
And then we go to Kwame Ture, Stokely Carmichael's speech about the difference between the conscious and the unconscious. And the way we win this fight is through reason, right? We're out in the streets and we're fighting, we're angry, and it's all emotion, but we're not putting together long-term plans.
Right.
And then we go from Kwame Ture to Martin Luther King saying, you know, don't let anybody take away your manhood for standing up for the right thing. And in order to be free, we have to sign the dotted line on our own Emancipation Proclamation, because nobody can give us freedom. We have to take it.
Wow.
And the record company was pissed, and they dropped us, and they pulled Isis and Osiris off the shelves. But we had to do it anyway. You know, and so, yes, being authentic, yes, being the artist that I know I'm supposed to be, and striving toward that, right, has come with its successes, but it's been lonely, and we've had more no's and more rejection than anything. But that's because we're not trying to ascribe to a Eurocentric or mainstream sensibility of what success is.
Okay.
You know, we define success on ourselves, by ourselves. Dr. Wade Noble, formerly of San Francisco State University, said the essence of power is the ability to find reality for yourself and others, and make those other people live within that reality as if it's a reality of their own choosing. Right?
I'm telling y'all.
And so by the time we got to release the 400, people couldn't deny the work. And so now I'm having conversations with musicians all over the country, like, how do I incorporate Blackness in my music?
Yeah.
So we're slowly shifting the reality because we defined it 20 years ago.
Yeah. So listen, if y'all have not received any of those gems, holler at me later, because there was a lot dropped in there. They were all powerful. And all I can say, man, is kudos to you for all that you've done. You mentioned a word, and that word is lonely. And I have had the opportunity to see you go through some of the challenges of, you know, getting your art, your form of art, recognized to the degree that it should have been a long time ago. And I pray that all that's due to you comes to you now and in the future. So you have worked hard and diligently, and you've brought so much to us. And now there's the thing of people really paying attention and absorbing that and adapting to that, or adopting that, should I say. So, wow, what a powerful story, man. So now, right? So I'm not going to ask you how does it feel, you know, from a redemption standpoint, but we're going to keep on moving, right? we're going to take the high road. So walk us through what's next for you, right? Because not only have you done the art, but you mentioned earlier, like, you've done the business, right? So walk us through the business side as we think about the Support Black Business Series and why we're here, because we want people to understand not only can you be an artist, and great at what you do, but you can evolve and elevate your artistry to a whole nother level from a business perspective. So can you help us understand what you've been doing there?
Absolutely. So in the movie Get On Up about James Brown, right? Chadwick Boseman playing James Brown, there's a scene where he goes to the record company and there's this white dude and he's moving and James Brown's like, what is that? He's like, that's the mashed potato. And James Brown says, that ain't no mashed potato. He said, I know. That's because I'm the business. You're the show. Go do the show and let me take care of the business. Right. And James was like, oh, that's whack. And what he did was he figured out the business and he took the gate from all his shows. He paid for his own recordings and he became a multimillionaire because he owned and controlled his product and the means of distribution.
That's right.
Right.
That's right.
And so when I started to have those issues with the record companies, not either A, keeping up with my production schedule, or B, trying to tell me what I could and could not release, I incorporated an LLC, CFG Multimedia, to be the conduit through which I released my own recordings at first.
There we go. Okay.
But I called it multimedia because I knew that the world was changing at that point and we had to do more than just produce music.
Got it.
So the 400 project, exactly. If we don't have vision, then we don't have a future, right?
That's right.
So I called it I called it
Trying to tell
multimedia
you.
because we started to produce film. And so the 400
Okay.
project, 400 African Epic, was really the first project where we kind of brought everything together. So the 400 African Epic project is a 12 album, 8.5 hour musical product. It also now has a documentary that we produced. It also has a concert DVD that we produced and released back in February, a cello quartet piece I wrote honoring 4 Black women in African and African-American history. We have a curriculum. There's all kind of art around it. So it's what a lot of people don't like Wagner because he was not the greatest guy, but Wagner is a German composer who had this term called the Gesamtkunstwerk.
Okay.
And that meant the complete artwork. That's how he saw opera, because opera was the television of their day. So he would write the music, he would write the text, and he would choreograph and design the set. And for him, that was his complete artistic expression. Well, for me, my Gesamtkunstwerk is the music, the film, the learning element or curriculum, the ability to give the lecture, and the live performance, and other means of distribution, whether it's the song score so other people can play it, or the recording itself so people can listen to it. And so we formed CFG Multimedia in 2008 to bring all of that to the market on our own. So right now, I own recording equipment, film, and audio. I can release all the music whenever I want within 24 hours of it being recorded. And that's how we got the 400 out. Half of the album I recorded, mixed, and mastered myself. You know, the other half we either paid or got some help through my residency with the WEX to do it in the studio. And so now we're looking at how do we expand to help younger artists? How do we move even beyond the documentary space and do, you know, docuseries, travel shows, full-length feature films that all center around our stories.
Wow.
You always got to keep building and expanding.
Man. So now here's what's interesting. Well, first of all that's amazing stuff. Y'all saw me dropping some more gems in. See, the cool part is Mark doesn't just drop gems about him. He dropped gems about other folks too. So you just don't know what you're going to get, but you're going to get some gems dropped. So with that being said, let me ask you about this, right? Because this is something, this is a challenge to our people, right? And this is a challenge to me too, right? Mark, your audience, right? Because you have a very diverse audience, right? In essence. So as we think about the culture that you're dropping through your artistry and your music, I'm looking at how do we, right? Because one of the things we always do at the end, just like we did a little while ago, is we need to come together to support you and your music differently than we have in the past, right? And I'm trying to look at how do we do that besides me just saying that, right? And exposing. I think toward the end, I think we might actually end with some of your music playing, if you don't mind.
Okay.
Right. But that's can you walk me through like your audience, right? And how you have, from a business standpoint, been able to elevate your business and diversify your audience at the same time?
Yeah. So when we first started, I mean, we were making, on a good night, $500 for 4 people for like split between 4 people for 4 hours of work.
Ooh.
Yeah. Now we're at a point.
$500?
500 for 4 people for 4 hours of work, right? Now we're at a point where at a minimum, we're getting about 10 grand for 90 minutes of work. And the way we've been able to do that is by building, you know, significant business practices and strategies, right? And it's not just about, it's finding the sweet spot between what the essence of your art is and how to bring it to market in a way that gets to the broadest audience possible while retaining your essential self, right? So behind the 400, we've got a podcast called Drumversations that my wife and I do.
Drumversations, there you go.
For sure. When the COVID pandemic hit, our tour got canceled. And so I became the first drummer to have over 30 episodes of a weekly web show called Drumversations, also on YouTube. And we'll be picking that up soon for the next season. And in that show, I'm playing drums and we're talking about these issues. So what folks are seeing is that, yes, there's the music and the art, but there's this cultural critique, there's this fun and engaging podcast where we're talking about the issues of the day, but playing on that husband, wife, or partner dynamic, right? Because she can bring stuff out of me that I probably wouldn't share otherwise, right?
Right.
And then we have the film and video. We have, the education. So there are about 5 or 6 different spheres that each product I create as a composer can then be monetized and put out to the market, distributed in some kind of way. And what we started to find is that plus my own educational attainment, Dr. Mark Lomax, one of about 40 African Americans in the whole country that have terminal degrees in classical composition, allowed us to open doors that we couldn't get through otherwise. And so we were able to move, and we still play clubs when it's feasible, right? But we were able to move out of the clubs into concert halls, expand the audience, because people are now coming because they like the podcast, or they're coming because, they were interested in the curriculum, or they're coming because, they like the music, any number of those things, right? And our goal is to uplift, edutain, and edify. So they leave that experience, whether it's the podcast or a book or a song, differently than they came to it. And that's been wildly successful for us,
Okay. Wow. So to go back to this, right? Did you say uplift, edutain, and edify?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. That's what I thought you said. So listen.
It's
so
not a transactional engagement, right?
Yeah.
So our goal is to provide the highest and best value for you, the exchange of your time and your hard-earned dollar.
Nice. So listen, y'all, the depth is amazing. And by the way, I want to do something. I apologize for this. And after I did it earlier, I should have did it then, right? Was when I introduced him, I didn't do it the right way because the friendship got in the way. But we do have Dr. Mark Lomax. I always try to make sure anytime I have a doctor on the show, no, out of respect, come on. You earned that. That wasn't given to you. So no, we're going to give you all due respect. So Dr. Mark Lomax.
I apologize.
Right? Right, exactly. Thank you. Appreciate your help there. So with that being said, as we get ready for the wind down, so Mark, tell us this. What's next for you? Like if you think about milestones, you just mentioned what you're doing with the series, right? And then we're going to talk about how people can get to you, your information, all that stuff in a minute. But what's the next milestone if you think about what's coming next week?
So there are 3 major things. I have 3 big commissions. One is a cello concerto that's going to be premiered of all places, or of several places, but one of them is in Nigeria, with I think the Lagos Orchestra there.
Okay.
And so that's for cello and full orchestra, and it's going to kind of encapsulate the history of African American and African music. I'm writing a piece based on the Amina Robinson exhibit at the Columbus Museum of Art. And I have another piece that I'm going to write for string quartet and soprano voice. I'm excited about those. But we're also planning our next tour, which hopefully will happen in 2022. And if the conversations I'm having go well now, then we'll be capturing portions of that tour as part of a show that will highlight different aspects of the book that I'm working on, called Toward a Politics of Humanity, where we'll go into cities for concerts, but we'll also talk to people on the ground who are using their power and their position to build a more just and equitable society. So they're practicing the politics of humanity on the ground. I'm really excited about that. And then as much music as the 400 is, we miss some stuff.
Oh, wow.
So I have sketched out probably the next 10 albums that pick up from Reconstruction and bring it to the contemporary time and even into the future. And that'll be for various ensembles. I'd love to get funding to record those works at significant landmarks that are important to us, like the Lynching Museum in Birmingham, Alabama, or Montgomery, I'm sorry.
Montgomery.
And the Black Smithsonian Museum, and just different places like that, the King Arts Center in Atlanta, and just go record in these places that have, that powerful energy specific to our people, and tell those stories. So yeah, we're moving, man. It's all about the story. It's all about the narrative.
Definitely. Listen, y'all, we talked about the segment earlier was called Artist Voice, right? Because this is how they provide their form of art. This is their voice through these different forms. So I appreciate that. So listen, let me ask you this. The next thing is, how do people, right, get in contact with you for your services, information, however, like what's your means of communication?
Google.
Google.
If you just
Okay.
Google Mark Lomax, it all comes up.
All right. So, and then you have the links to everything you need to see and or hear that's available. Now, walk me through this real quick. So this Drumversation, right?
Yeah.
That can be found on YouTube where? They just put in?
YouTube.com/CFG Multimedia.
Yeah.
Or you can just, again, go to, because YouTube is Google. If you go to YouTube search and type in Mark Lomax and Mark Lomax drums or any combination thereof, it comes all up, you know.
There you go. Just that easy, y'all. You should just Google. All right, there you go. I love it. So he's Googleable. That's what is the new term, Googleable. So with that being said, so the last part here is you kind of gave us a little segue into this, and this is the serious part for our audience, right? Listen, he's done the work, right? It's our turn. So Mark, if there was one thing that we could do to support you in your endeavors, you kind of talked about a little bit of what we could do already, but if there was one ask that everybody could say, you know what, he asked us to do this, and those that say, I want to do it, they could go do it right now. What would that be for us to do to support you?
You know, honestly, as we're building this thing out, we've had a whole year to think about it. You know, if I had an investment at the level of about $500,000, I could take it to scale in 3 years.
Okay.
And, you know, we could really do the work of telling our stories on our own terms. Everybody wants to complain about the movies and the TV shows and the music that's not representing us in the way that we want. But when you asking white folk for their money, then you got to tell the story the way they tell you to tell it. But when we use our own resources, we can tell the stories the way we want to tell them. And that's my goal.
Okay. Well, this is what I could tell you is I know a lot of people are digging in their pockets to help support. So I'm going to put the challenge out there, right? We already know what he needs to continue to tell our story as authentically as it can be done. So as a community, we need to make sure we're supporting him, right? So let me ask you this. Do you already have anything set up yet? Like any type of funding platforms yet?
Not yet. You and I are going to talk about that.
Okay.
But I literally just rewrote my business plan last week.
Yeah.
And that's where I get those numbers and projections from, because we're going to be focusing a lot more on film and video. And you know, we got to tell it because nobody else can do it but us.
There you go. And ladies and gentlemen, I think enough has been said there. So stay tuned. Make sure you check him out on Google. Make sure you listen to his amazing music. We're going to end up, I'm going to do my little wrap-up, but if you could tee up the music in a minute, Mark, we're just going to let it play for a little bit after I do my wrap-up. And we'll go out on that note, if that's all right with you, right?
Yeah.
All right. So here we go. So listen, y'all, I want to thank you all for watching us tonight. As you all can tell, this was a very, very powerful segment, right? We had two amazing artists. I mean, two amazing, amazing artists. You can see and hear the work, right? These are gifted, talented individuals. One is I want us to make sure we're supporting them now that we all know more about them, right? And make sure you check us out as well on ColumbusBlack.com. This is where you'll be able to find the links to actually see these videos, right? Long term. Share that with other folks. Share this. If you're watching this, whether it's now, tomorrow, this weekend, a year from now, I want you to tag somebody and I want you to hit the share button because somebody else needs to hear this, okay? No matter what. And then with that being said, follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. Now here's the cool part. I'm gonna drop this shameless plug in there. So we have this really cool sponsor. It's called MILE. It stands for Make Your Life Entertainment. And we're gonna be working with Dr. Mark Lomax on getting his information out there really soon too, right? Because we're about to launch our second version. We're really excited about an amazing platform that's gonna help you all really make your lives entertaining because that's what MILE stands for. So with that being said, we're gonna go ahead and wrap up. Join our mailing list when you go to the website. I wanna thank Ohio Small Business Development Centers at Columbus State Community College. And obviously I wanna thank Columbus Makes Art for their support as well. And on that note, we're gonna transition into the music. And as the music is coming on, I'm gonna wrap up as I always do, which is in order to be more successful in your future, you need to understand more about your past. That's the reason why y'all just watched an amazing, powerful show, and I think we all had a blast. And on that note, y'all, I'm out. Enjoy the music. And there we have it.